with this special edition of Creative Stamping, we are getting 3 stamp sets, but one of them is this Around the World set, which I absolutely love. And I think it's perfect not only for Bon Voyage, Happy Birthday, all these occasions, but also for masculine cards and children's cards as well, which is often something that we don't see as available as maybe florals and butterflies. So I love that we're getting everything here. There's hot air balloon, cars, we've got the camper van as well, the plane, the cloud. So I'm going to create an aperture card using the hot air balloon, the scenery and the clouds there. So I've got my hot air balloon there on an acrylic block here. It's quite a large one. And I'm going to stamp this with VersaFine ink. I'm just going to pop my light on there so I can see what I'm doing. And you can see the detail that shows up there when I start applying the ink. It's really, really beautiful. Now I'm stamping onto a scrap piece of cardstock. I say scrap, a spare piece, because I'm then going to cut the image out once I've coloured it. So I'm just going to press that down. What I'm also going to do on this cardstock is some clouds and any other imagery that I want to put onto my card. There we go. So I've started colouring in my stamped image, just using my alcohol pens here, and if you've got the chance to blend from lighter to darker colours, it's a good idea to make the base darker and at the top lighter, which is naturally what would happen if this balloon was flying around in the sky, because of course the light would be hitting the top first. So I'm just making each section a different colour, so I'll alternate the colours throughout. And then the clouds I'm going to leave white and the scenery I'm going to colour in as well. So now I've used all my alcohol pens to colour in the hot air balloon and the landscape down the bottom there. I'm going to cut all of these elements out with my fussy cutting scissors, keeping quite close to all the lines but not going over them, so we can still clearly see the black. So now I've cut my 4 elements out, I need to prepare my card base. Now I've got quite a large card base here because I'm going to bring in my creative dies, and I'm going to be using this oval here. So this is a stitched oval, but I'm only going to be using the outside of it, so we won't see the stitching. And it's going to be an aperture into my card that my hot air balloon can be sort of floating past, like so. So I'm just going to tack this down with a little bit of low tack tape and run this through my die cutting machine. I've obviously used this tape before, so it's not very sticky. But before I run that through, you can either have this opened up so you only cut through the top layer, or as I'm going to do, I'm going to cut through both layers, so you may need to run this through a couple of times. Okay, sometimes you might find that only the top layer will cut through because this is a 300 GSM card blank. That's fine. If you cut through the top one, it should leave a good indentation at least on the bottom one. You can then move your die to the bottom, open it up and run it through your machine again. So I think this has cut through, yeah, that's cut through both layers. So just release my die. I've got one layer in here, and as you can see, we get a lovely stitched edge to the oval there. It's really pretty, but because I cut through both layers of my card, I've got 2 ovals that I can put aside and use on another project. And then I've got my aperture going all the way through my card. Now I could have chosen the larger aperture in the set there, but then I wouldn't have much card space left around the edge, and that would make the card really quite flimsy and not very strong, so I opted for the smaller oval. I've still got plenty of space to have my hot air balloon floating by. So now I need to attach these elements to my card, but to make the card even more dimensional, I'm going to add some inking around it. Very pale inking, just some pale blue around the aperture and around the card edge. So I've chosen to go for this tumbled glass, which is a sky blue or a baby blue. And I'm going to go around the inside of the aperture first. So I'm going to blend from the middle onto a resistant mat and just catch the very edge of the aperture there, just to add a little bit of colour. It just gives it a finished look. It's quite subtle, but it does look a lot more professional, and it also gives that sky blue feel to the card, because of course the hot air balloon would be floating through the sky. And then I'm going to go around the card edge as well. So there I've inked the edges, just the inside edge of this aperture and the outside of the front there, all in that pale blue. And now I can trim down to size my greenery, so the grass and everything. I'm going to leave a slight border. I could have this going right from edge to edge if I wanted to, but I do think a slight border helps to tie in the rest of the card base and make it look like one piece rather than separate layers. So I'm just going to take a pencil, mark a line along here with a ruler, and then cut that by hand. There, now that piece is going to be glued on with some foam pads, so that will lift it up, give it a little bit of a shadow behind. So I'm going to use my foam pads here. I absolutely love these foam pads. The backing comes off really easily, and they're really nice and thick and dimensional. They're actually quite sturdy as well, so if your project does get squashed at all, it won't flatten the foam at all. They really do hold their own shape. So really easy to take the backing off, and they're nice large ones as well, but you can cut them down. And place that back on there with a slight border, so we've got a little bit of dimension. And then to place the hot air balloon. So this is going to only be glued by the very top. The rest is going to be suspended in the air here. So you can have it central. I quite like there. So what you need to do is make a note, because once you flip this over, it might be easy to put your foam pad on the wrong side. So just make a note of whereabouts you want that foam pad to be. Now it may be the easiest way to flip it over with it in place, and then take a pencil and just draw a line along there. Now if you're worried about this, you being able to see the colour there, you can cut yourself another shape, maybe stamp another shape, cut it and place it on the back there. It's a fairly symmetrical shape as well, so you should be fine to do that. And then we've got our line. This is where we can put our foam. So in fact I'm going to go for foam tape, because I can work that around the edge and then trim it, so I can bend it slightly, cut it, turn this over and trim it to fit the edge of that cut stamped image. Just taking my excess off. Make sure you clean your scissors afterwards, or use some old scissors, ones just for cutting glue and tape. Peel the backing off, and then again it's a good idea just to make sure that's back in the same place. Turn it over and do it from the reverse. There we go, and then you'll have no tape showing either. The clouds, I'm going to put one up here. The other one is going to be just coming off the edge of the card there. I'm going to pop a sentiment banner in there somewhere, so I'm leaving a little bit of space. So this is overhanging the card. If you don't like it overhanging, you can of course tuck them elsewhere if you wanted to, or you could have one up here and one down there. So it's entirely up to you whereabouts you put your clouds, but these are going to be put on with a wet glue so that they are underneath the hot air balloon. So again, make a note of whereabouts you need your glue to be, and I do like that they are going over the aperture there as well, not just, I think I might put that one on there like so, just overhanging. I like things overhanging the card, but just make sure that nothing is going to be overhanging the base line here. Anything at the side and the top is fine, but if you have anything coming over the base, then you're not going to be able to stand your card up. So just, you've got a little bit of wiggle room as well here with this glue. Just gluing those on, and then as you can see, we've got our clouds and our hot air balloon floating in that aperture. So now we can just work on putting a little sentiment in there to finish this off. So I've stamped here just onto a scrap of cardstock, Off You Go, which comes in the stamp set there. So I'm just going to glue that. I'm not going to ink this because I want it to coordinate with those clouds that are bright white. So it's going to be a banner that's uninked. The inking really around the edge of the white card base really represents the blue sky, so this wants to stand out. I'm just going to place it against the edge there, just peeking into that aperture, said off you go. So great for bon voyage, could be retirement, could be leaving a job, moving house, anything like that. But there's a nice fun card with the aperture with the hot air balloon and the clouds in, all using those stamps from Creative Stamping Magazine.